it really comes down to the experiences that we share with the people we love. Like,
Mhm.
no great man is on his deathbed being like, ah, shit, I wish I closed that one more deal. Right. Everyone's like, hey, I wish I could relive one more trip with my kids when they were 12 and 6. Like, I remember that. It was just such a sweet memory. And those are the moments we're reliving and resharing.
Hi, I'm Tim Bratz, and every week I sit down with the top influential entrepreneurs in the country to discuss how to leave a true legacy in all things happiness, health, wealth, and wisdom. This is the Legacy Podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to the Legacy Podcast. Tim Bratz here, your host, and appreciate you guys being here. All right, so this is a topic that I have gone down a rabbit hole with over the past year or so, and I get really excited about it because I love travel and I love deals. Right, I'm a kid from the Midwest. Um, I wear my clothes into the ground. I drive my cars into the ground, even though I have a big real estate portfolio and I make a lot of money. But at the end of the day, I like finding awesome deals, especially when it comes to travel. And so I got connected with Eli the travel guy, about I don't know, maybe 5, 6 months ago when I was looking at planning my summer travel. And so my family and I took this epic trip to Europe, and we went to London and we went to Paris and we went to the Greek islands and then Athens and then flew back through Dublin. So we hit 4 countries, 5 cities, all within a span of a couple of weeks, which was kind of a lot with traveling with 3 kids, but I wouldn't do it exactly that same way. But we wanted to hit a lot of stuff because it was the kid's first time in Europe. And so I got connected with Eli. Him and his team helped plan the trip, and they helped me with um, getting the flights over. They helped me with utilizing points. So I was out of pocket, less money cash. And I'll share some of those examples with you. But one is we had these amazing lay down seats, and we got 5 of them, right? It's me, my wife, my 3 kids, 5 lay down seats on the way over to London, with these uh, everything you could ever want, like multiple meals, overfed, multiple drinks, right? They're like, we can close the little door and take a nap, do all this stuff. And to get 5 seats all next to each other and all paid for on points, this was like $37,000. And it cost us about, I think it was like $200 of actual cash and 200,000 points that, 225,000 points that we got on Amex. So it was like an insane saving. So I got really amped up, and I was like, I got to have you on the podcast. I got to share some of these insights with our community. So Eli, bro, I appreciate you being here, man.
Tim, awesome to be here, man. I just love the intro and segue into like what you're doing with your family. I mean, that's the heartbeat of what's behind my passion and what our company does is creating epic experiences and just doing the smartest, most leveraged, efficient way possible.
Hmm.
And so I'm super excited to be here and unpack this rabbit hole you've been going down.
Oh man. And so, you bring up the main point, which is why are we doing this stuff, right? Like I've been working my ass off for 20 years in real estate. And dude, I've done everything. I've walked into the houses with roaches falling on my heads. I've walked out with fleas up my jeans, left my jeans in the and drove home in just my underwear. Like I have gotten, chased out of houses by tenants with baseball bats. I've had contractors rip me off. I've had investors rip me off. I've had sellers rip me off. And in the pursuit of more, right? And I got to thinking over the past couple of years of like, why are we doing this? Why do we want more? Why does society say to just chase more? And the reality is, as I grew my real estate portfolio, and I got up to 5,000 rental units, as I grew that portfolio, my quality of life didn't change. I could still afford a lot of cool things, but like other than my quality of life actually went down because I had more phone calls, more headaches, less ability to travel, less ability to spend time with my family. I wasn't there in the evenings. I'm taking phone calls and all this stuff that I didn't want, right? That I thought I was pursuing. And so I got a lot of clarity on that over the past 3, 4 years and realized I'm going to make it a point to go and travel. And so we're not to the point of doing like homeschooling and stuff yet, but I want to take an epic trip every July with the family, 2 to 4 weeks. And I want to take an epic trip every January where we'll unenroll the kids for like a month and then go because nothing happens in school in January anyway. So that's like on 2 epic trips. And then we take the spring break and we go to, Costa Rica, or we'll go wherever for like a Thanksgiving and do a couple other like long weekends and stuff too. But really the 2 epic trips. And that's what really instilled in me of like contacting you guys and going down this thread of how do we utilize points? How do we get more points? What's the most efficient and effective way to use it? It can be very complicated, right? And it feels like too much. You get inundated with all this. I will say it gets simplified like anything does over time. And as you kind of listen to more podcasts and you read a little bit more about it and you hear guys talk about it, and I have these conversations with your team, and there's a lot of like very simple things that seem like almost common sense, but you wouldn't realize it in the moment. So let's start at the top. Let's start with if nobody's ever used points and they have an Amex and they're just racking up hundreds of thousands of points a year from their business expenses, right? Like I renovate apartment buildings on mine and stuff. So I have a lot of points, several million that are just sitting there. What does that look like? How does somebody even get started with this process?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you touched on the right thing first, which is understanding the why, and we can kind of come back to this. But I've spent a lot of time thinking about this too. Like I've been in the travel industry for 10 years. I built this business about 5 years ago, but it's been my passion, my obsession for as long as I can remember. And I created a YouTube video recently, like why? Why do I seek adventure? Why do I want these experiences? What is it about this that is just so not just addictive, but ultimately fulfilling? And I started to really go down this rabbit hole myself. And I started to think about, the big picture of life and these kind of life design philosophies and principles that you talk a lot about, and really connecting to what it means to live a fulfilling life. And I kind of came down to, it really comes down to the experiences that we share with the people we love. Like no great man is on his deathbed being like, ah, shit, I wish I closed that one more deal. Right. Everyone's like, hey, I wish I could relive one more trip with my kids when they were 12 and 6. Like I remember that. It was just such a sweet memory. And those are the moments we're reliving and resharing. And that's what leads to fulfillment. And so I started to think of this thing, and I call it now, it's kind of like I almost coined like a currency, but I call it experiential wealth. It's different than financial wealth or time wealth. It's what are the experiences you're cultivating in your life with the people you love, and
I love
travel.
that.
It's the peak. It's the peak moments of your life you're going to look back on. And when you are intentional and you make it not just something you accidentally stumble into, but you make it a category, it's a bucket in your life design, then it's like every year we do the summer trip in July, we do the winter trip, we have our spring break, all this. I have a whole framework I'm creating called the Experiential Millionaire, but that's it. So like that why is so important. And when you connect to that and you start to see that points can unlock the ability to have the next decade be the most memorable, unforgettable peak memories with your kids, your family of all time, then it's like, okay, now I have a compelling reason to get into this points game and really figure it out. And I think that why is why you've been going down podcasts, rabbit holes, all that stuff, because you're seeing the dots connect, right? So I hope that's a good jumping in point. And I can kind of jump into the high level overview of how to think about this points game first from like a 30,000 foot view. And then we can chunk it down. That makes it simple. Cool. So again, chunking into simple buckets is really key. So otherwise what happens is people see a million different tactics and hacks and articles on the points guy, or a thing on point.me or a random social media reel, and they're like have all this random bits of information that's like having a random puzzle piece that you don't know where to put it. Right. And you're too busy if you have a family and you're running businesses to like think about all that. So you just have a bunch of information in your head that you can't actually do anything with. So the buckets to put stuff in is really three main categories. So there's going to be there's category number one is maximizing your points. And this is all about getting the right cards on the right expenses so you can multiply how many points you're earning for every dollar you spend in your household, let's go in your business. Yeah.
Let's dive into that. So a normal card gets essentially 1 point per dollar spent, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And 1 point is, or it's like, for every $100 spent, you get essentially
100
like
points.
100 points, which is like worth 1 cent or something like that, or
$1.
Yeah,
one. So the baseline value of a point, this is kind of the second bucket, but
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Is each point is worth 1 cent baseline. So you can increase not just the value on the points and stretch each point further, but you can also increase the amount that you earn. So if you do both of those, you're getting like a double multiplier essentially on the value.
And when you're talking about points, right? Like there's airline points, there's hotel points, there's Amex points. Are they all relatively the same value?
Not at all. And so that's why I said in the beginning, the right cards on the right expenses, because when you think about the right cards, well, what's the right card for you? it's going to be based off of a couple things. We kind of call this your travel DNA because the cards that you want are different than mine because you spend different amounts on different things. You have different travel goals and you have different travel destinations that you want and things that you prefer. So if you spend over $1 million on rehabbing homes, let's just say there's a lot of materials, right? And you live in Charleston, right?
Yep.
And you guys are flying out of Atlanta a lot because of that. And there's certain airlines based out of there. And then there's certain banks that are going to transfer into those airline programs. Now we start to see, okay, so we want to be earning one of these two types of points. Then based on that, we want to look at, well, based on what do you spend on? Okay, you spend a lot of materials. What are the best cards in that currency that will earn you the most points of the right points for you? So that you need to reverse engineer it. It's not just like get a random credit card. This is kind of the common mistake that people make. Like, well, what's the difference? I have the Amex Platinum. It's like, it's a big difference. And that's going to be the key thing to think of. And the big picture metric, by the way, to be like, how am I doing this is called return on spend. For every dollar you spend, how much do you get back, right? If you have a cash back card, like the baseline industry average for the cash back card is going to be like 2%. So when you optimize this, though, you're going to be getting 8 to 10% back on your total annual spend, which can be a lot of money for someone who's spending quite a bit like you.
So I think this is the main financial understanding of the points game. All right. So what I have learned over the past year is if you just spend aimlessly on an Amex Platinum or on a whatever your card is, that and you're not doing the intentionality that you're talking about of, oh, because I go to Home Depot a lot and I can get 5x the points at Home Depot on this other card, right? I'm not doing that. Or let's just assume somebody's not doing that. They're only getting 1 point per dollar spent, right? Versus having the right card can get you 5 points per dollar spent. That's why you get, the gas stations and the hotels and the flights and all this other stuff. Or you spend a certain amount, then you can get a higher multiple on the per dollar spent. So the idea here would be, if you are just spending it aimlessly, you probably shouldn't even have a points card, right? It actually makes more sense to have a 2% cash back because you're getting more money back if you don't know what you're doing. But if you do know what you're doing, or you do just learn a little bit about this game, you can get many, many times that. Like on this flight, I got 10x the value on my points, right? Because I was able to then, that was just on the purchasing. That was without knowing about having the right card for the right expenses. That was on just using the points properly for my flight. So you can get 10x or 20x the value of what these points would otherwise be worth if you do travel, if you do know a little bit about this game, or you have consultants like you guys who can help you out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let's break down your example to kind of to articulate this. So let's say in your business, you spent $200,000 on materials. Okay. So if you had a card that earns 2 points per dollar where everyone else is earning 1, you're earning, let's say 400,000 points. That was more or less almost enough, I think, to cover your family's trip.
The to and from. Yeah.
The to and from. So that's $200,000 that you spent. Okay. Let's even say it was a little more. Let's say it's called 250. You spent $250,000 and the total flight return sounded like it was around 40K in savings, more or less, right? Somewhere right around there.
Yep. A little bit more. 47,000.
47. So you spent $250,000 and you get 47 back. So we do the math on that. For every dollar you spent, your return on that was, I mean, that's, what is that, like almost 20%? I mean,
20% return.
20% return on spend. That is 10x compared to 2% cash back card.
Right.
And it's tax-free, right? If you paid for this with cash, those flights, you'd be taking money out of your company. You're paying tax on the distribution or whatever you're paying. You take that out of the company, then you use that money for a personal expense. Well, you just tipped Uncle Sam another, let's say $45,000, 25% of that. You tipped him like Uncle Sam another 10K just to get the money out of the company. So all of that now gets to stay into your investments, goes back into team, hiring, investments, whatever you want to do, and then use the point. So the return is huge. But to your point, comes down to, are you using not just the right point multiplier cards, but are you earning the right currency? Because if you have like a Bank of America card, for example, right, or PNC or TD Bank, or a lot of these banks, Discover, a lot of them don't earn points that have this ability to transfer. And this is the key in terms of unlocking the value of the points, which kind of, again, goes into bucket number 2. So maximizing the points earnings is really the first bucket. And then turning your points into your dream trips by converting the points from the banks into the airlines is really the second step. So maximizing your points for your dream trips. And I say dream trips on purpose. We can kind of come back to why. But that conversion process of taking points from Chase, from Amex, from Citi, from Capital One, even now there's a couple other programs, and converting them into the right airline for the right deal is how you get the kind of stuff you're talking about. What happens for most people is they either don't have enough points or they have the wrong type, or they don't know how to convert them and they get stuck and they're like, man, this points game is a scam. Like it cost me 500,000 points to go round trip to Europe. That's insane for one person. Whereas people like you are getting a family of 5 round trip for like a fraction of that, right?
Yeah.
So that's how it works.
It's amazing, man. So number one is we got to find the right card so that way you're multiplying the amount of points that you can get. Number two is making sure that you can transfer it to the right buckets. So that way you can have the right transfer partners based on what the airlines that you usually take, the hotels that you usually stay at. When you're looking at those kinds of things, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but like, are you trying to stay with the same airline group, like the Star, I can't remember, the Star Alliance or the, are you trying to stick around with the same one? Cause you're out of Austin, I think, and you always fly in the same flights traditionally, or do you have each one of them and you're just gamifying it all the time?
Yeah, great question. So this speaks to the idea of loyalty, right? And especially for your big international trips, do not be loyal. The only case where it makes sense to be loyal is if you're someone who's spending enough to hit top tier elite status, you're flying the same airline like 2 to 3 times per month, and you're not already going to pay for first class. If that's the case, then loyalty actually makes sense because you're going to get meaningful amounts of upgrades that you wouldn't otherwise be paying for. But unless you're doing that, like if you're only getting mid-level status, you're not traveling that much, or it's not always the same airline, just don't do it, because the opportunity cost of where that spend is now going to go in order to hit loyalty status, it's just going to be a poor return for you. So in terms of loyalty, the answer is no, but it doesn't really matter because like for your international flights, right? Like let's say, on the way over here, I actually flew Singapore Airlines. They fly from JFK to Frankfurt, Germany. Okay. It's called a fifth freedom route when an airline flies from in between two cities that it's not its home country, right? This is Singapore Airlines, but it flies from New York to Frankfurt. So they're in the Star Alliance. Okay. So there's different ways to book that flight. I could convert points directly into Singapore Airlines, but depending on the availability, I could also potentially book it through Avianca, through Air Canada, through United. And each of those airlines partner with different banks. So what that does is it opens up different options to get the best possible deal. And depending on the flight you have, certain partners are way better than others. One of the examples, I flew Lufthansa first class a couple years back. Really crazy experience. We were flying out of Frankfurt. They have a private first class terminal, so different security. You get a cigar lounge, bathtub, like it's
Really?
crazy lounge. It's amazing. They drive you from that lounge onto the tarmac in a private Porsche, like completely unnecessary, but completely epic. And that one, so you could book Lufthansa through United, Air Canada, or
Awesome.
Avianca. Yeah. Air Canada wanted like 120,000 miles for that flight, which isn't terrible for what it was worth. It was like a $10,000 experience, so still a good deal. United was like 110,000, but Avianca was only, I think, 83,000. So even on that route, right, it was part of the Star Alliance, which means it opens it to other partners. That even amongst those partners, there's one that charges way less points than the rest do. So using these strategically is kind of the second layer of it's a little bit complex for some people to just figure out, but just knowing that that's how it works is really the key idea I want people to take away, because that will allow you to understand how to get the best deals or not.
So if I'm searching, that's a great hack. So if I'm searching for a flight and I find the flight that I want overseas on Kayak or something, right? I can go and see that it's a United flight, and then I can go search all the Star Alliance partners because they all have access to book that flight, but because they all have different banks that they work with, there's a different amount of points that are needed in order to book through each one of those different partners. Am I saying that properly?
You pretty much got it, but this brings us to something called award availability. And what award availability is let's say an airline has 300 seats on an international flight, right? Let's say it's a United flight. You might see the cash fare, $7,000 business class for United, right? That is the cash fare that United offers. And if you go to Google Flights or Kayak or Amex Travel, anywhere and you're searching with cash, that's what you're going to see. If you go through the bank travel portal, then what you'll see, and you click search with points like Amex Travel. This is, by the way, one of the biggest mistakes that people make with travel is they're going to waste their points directly through the travel portal. It's kind of the trap that the banks want you to fall into. But what they do is they will charge in points in direct correlation to the revenue or the price of the ticket. So if a ticket was $7,000, it's going to be 700,000 points through Amex. Okay. Now the airlines, they have a different pricing method based on distance or regions that you're flying to or from, and whether it's like off peak or on peak. So basically what that means is this creates something we call points arbitrage. The bank's charging 700,000 points and United might charge 80,000 for the same flight. But there's less availability of the lower deals, right? So this is where being able to search strategically and find the right partners comes in, because if an airline has those 300 seats, they're going to take cash for all 300, right? That's their option number one. Maybe 100 of those, if it's a United flight, United will offer to book on United miles because it's like United's currency. But then out of the points booking or out of the award, like mileage tickets, maybe half of those are open to other partners in the Star Alliance. So that's going to be where the best deals come in, but it's also the lowest amount of inventory.
Which is why it's difficult to get a lot of seats in first class going over there together, right? Like on the way over to Europe, when we went, we got 5 seats all in a row. We were all good to go. On the way back, we could only get 3. Right. And so somehow my wife, my 2 oldest kids got first class, and then it's me and the baby in the back in coach. No, but it was fine.
Paid for all this. How does this happen? Yeah.
You know what's wild is I was sitting next to another real estate investor, a kid who just travels around the world, had an awesome conversation. He's getting golden visas and passports and all this other stuff.
Oh, nice. Yep.
Yeah, really, really neat. But anyways, I went down a rabbit hole on that. So it seems like the greatest points arbitrage can be had on international long leg flights. Is that the case? What about domestic?
So you absolutely nailed it. The greatest arbitrage is 100% for your international premium cabins, business and first class. And specifically for the tax reasons I mentioned, you want to use your points. Like, so people, all the times people are like, when should I use them? I'm sitting on 1 million points. What's the right time? Prioritize your international business and first class flights first that are personal, non-write-off, expenses. So if you could write it off, then it would go lower in the tier. The second is going to be your personal domestic trips and luxury hotel stays. That's going to be your second option. The third would be the business options,
all luxury hotel stays, whether it's international or domestic.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay. But it's because the higher the price, the more opportunity for the arbitrage to be significant, right? If you find a deal for a domestic flight and it's from Charleston to, Dallas, it's like you're saving $300 versus internationally you're saving 3,000. So in terms of like return on any sort of effort or usage of the points, that international leverage is going to be much, much higher. So I still play the points game domestically for sure. But for me, a lot of business owners, domestic travel is often something they can write off, especially, maybe they're going to check out properties or go have meetings. So if you can write it off, that's actually a good opportunity to earn more points on that domestic travel, get the right cards on those travel expenses, use that as an opportunity to leverage the amount of points you get, use those points for your personal vacations. And this is also, it creates something I call the freedom flywheel. And so this is something that's interesting for business owners and investors to think about, because what happens is as your business grows, your expenses go up. And if you do this right, the more your expenses go up, the more points you have. The more points you have, the more vacations your business creates for you. Okay. The more vacations your business creates for you, the more you kind of love your business and want to grow it, right? Like I have sat here as we're in the Park Hyatt. I'm in London right now. We're in a $3,000 per night suite. And I was literally talking to my fiance at breakfast this morning. I'm like, I got to figure out my ad funnel better because I want to be spending like 50 grand a month on ads and just like generating, leads at cost so I can generate more points so I can take you on trips like this even more.
Yep.
And so that is a really good flywheel. Whereas for most people, these vacations, they come at the cost of your cash. So then it's this inner conflict of like, I want to go on vacation, but I don't want to spend 50 grand that could go into investments or whatever else. And so it's a conflict whereas this is the opposite. It's like, as I grow, I actually get to take more trips. So that's a long way of answering what you're asking about. But yes, international business class first, domestic second. But for those domestic trips, if they can be a write-off, I suggest doing that first.
Yep. I mean, I love that. And I think, and so that was the kind of the game that I was playing before of, I didn't know how to hack it with travel, but I was like, well, I'll just get gift cards, right? To all these different like Amex gift cards that you can get and go and buy clothes from the Gap or go and buy steaks from Longhorn or something, of things that I wouldn't be able to otherwise write off, and try to make these business points that I'm going to pay for my personal expenses. And so it was okay. And it's all right. And I get a Home Depot gift card in order to go and buy stuff and for my own house or whatever. But it wasn't it's a one-to-one thing, right? And so you're
Yeah.
not really
Right.
getting that. Is there a
Right.
metric that you're looking for to make sure, like, hey, here's kind of the barometer that I would use in order to
Yep.
measure
Yep.
use points or just paying cash?
You nailed it. Yeah, absolutely. And this is how you know if you're winning in the whole that second step of turn your points into your dream trips, because the metric is called cent per point, right? So the big metric is return on spend, and that's going to be the number of points per dollar that you earn on every dollar spent, and the cent per point you get out of each point. So if you double the amount of points you get and you get 4 times the value, that's 8x return on spend compared to the
Mm,
baseline. So that's how you can think about this. But cent per point is basically how much does the thing cost and how many points does it cost. So if you have you're getting 1 cent per point, which is the baseline value of what like an Amex point is worth, right? A $10,000 business class ticket is going to be 1 million points. If you
mm,
get that same ticket for 200,000, you got 5 cents per point.
mm.
Okay. Now, but here's the thing. There are different ways to redeem these points that will get you varying degrees of value. The worst way is Amazon and gift cards. So that's like what you were doing before. You're going to get on average around 0.6 of 1 cent, which is pretty terrible for your Amex points.
So I
Okay.
went through all the gift cards and I found the ones because I did this without knowing
Okay.
about it. And I
Yeah.
found the gift cards that gave me the most most money per
Okay.
point. And so I was like
Okay.
1-to-1 on most of them.
That's good. Okay. So at
Yeah.
least you got that. That's good. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad
Yeah.
to hear that.
But you're right.
So,
Like Amex is always prompting you to say, hey, why don't you just pay for your credit card pay your credit card bill
right.
with your points? And it's like 60, it's like 0.6. It's not even, yeah, it's point or 6/10 of a
0.6 of
cent.
a cent.
Right. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Terrible. Like, but think of it like this, right? These banks, hotels, airlines, these are, I like to study them from a marketing standpoint. They are the masters of customer behavior and consumer loyalty, right? So they
Hmm.
know, okay, the Amex Platinum has this status, the Black Card has this status. We're going to charge these fees and we're going to dangle this carrot in front of them and make it the game gamifiable enough where some people are winning and they're going to think that they're doing it right. But we're going to make it complex enough where they're probably going to waste their points. So therefore, the bank gets you to get premium cards and use them, pay the annual fees, pay interest, and then waste the points. And they end up, making a ton of money off of us, especially business owners that are spending a lot. And we get hardly anything for it if you don't do it right. So the gift cards, the Amazon, the statement credits, they do make it really easy to do that, but that's not how you maximize. Going through the travel portal is the next step up. And depending on your cards, you'll get usually 1 cent per point. Some cards like the Chase Sapphire Preferred, Chase Sapphire Reserve, you can get up to 1.25 or 1.5 cents per point, which is a little better. Chase actually just rolled something out called the Chase Edit program, which gets you up to 2 cents per point on certain luxury hotels. That's actually not bad. But the way that you get 3 cents per point, 3 cents per point, 4 cents per point, up to 10 cents per point, like you got, you have to transfer to the airline or hotel loyalty programs because that's the only way the arbitrage is big enough. And
Hmm.
another way to say this, if cent per point is kind of confusing, you could also think of it, you could flip it and think of it percentage off. Okay, so if you got a $10,000 ticket and you only paid 100,000 points, you could say I got 10x the value, but you could also say I got it for 90% off.
Yeah.
So it's just some people's brains, it makes more sense looking at it
Yep.
from one lens versus the other.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. You had said something that triggered something I heard. All these three major airlines, right? United, Delta, and American are all worth somewhere between 10 to $20 billion market cap. I heard that their points, the points portion of their business is actually worth between 20 to $30 billion, which means the actual airline is worth negative value. All the flying around that they do, the only reason they're in business is because they're a bank on these points programs because of how much money they make from people not utilizing the points. When 2020 occurred and nobody was flying, they actually mortgaged their points portion of their business instead of their actual airplanes because it was worth more money. Isn't that wild?
Totally. It is wild. And that's why a lot of people ask, so like, do you think the points thing is going to stick around? I'm like, well, if we plan to fly, yeah, I think it's going to
Yeah.
be around because like the
Yeah.
banks, they need these loyalty programs to support the operation of the airlines. You're totally
Yep.
right. That's awesome. You know that a lot of people don't know that.
Dude, it would blew my mind when I heard that. Like, American Airlines is worth negative $10 billion. United's worth negative $10 billion. Delta's worth they're worth negative money. The only reason and that's, you go to any major city, right? All the biggest buildings are all owned by banks and insurance companies which are banks. And so it's like, there's obviously money in that business. And,
Right.
and yeah, the airline's just there to support the points program. So it's, It's interesting. So we've talked a lot about the airlines. Let's pivot over to the hotels. All right.
Hmm.
So it seems like there's three big hotel outlets for the points, which is Marriott, Hilton, and then Hyatt. I heard Hyatt's got like a lot of really good deals. I've never booked. Have I ever booked with points? I don't think I've ever booked a hotel with. Oh, I did, but it was through friggin' Amex. I didn't think straight. So, but tell me about the hotels. How do we hack that? Is it you
Hmm.
said it doesn't matter if it's domestic or international. Like, how
Yeah.
do you find the best deals there?
Yeah, you nailed it. And so there's one other program, IHG, that's technically got a
Yeah,
decent
that's
loyalty
right.
program. Yeah,
Mhm.
and then I mean, look, there's other ways to still get benefits and upgrades. Like if, for the really luxury travelers that want Four Seasons, they want Amman, they want Shangri-La, Peninsula, stuff like that. For example, one of our mutual friends, Mark, when he was in, I think Japan, they really wanted to stay at like the Peninsula. They just knew it was like a really cool hotel that they preferred. So like, there's still ways to maximize the upgrades and perks and stuff like that there. But in terms of gamifying the loyalty side and using points to eliminate the cost of travel or greatly reduce it and get like upgrades for free, those are the big three. And each of them have kind of different plays as to why you'd want to use them or not. And they each have different transfer partners too. So right now, as I mentioned, I'm in the Park Hyatt in London, which is awesome. It's 5-star, just opened last October. And the room that I'm in would have been $3,000 per night. I paid 30,000 points a night for this. So $300
It's
basically in
awesome.
value is baseline value. Yeah, for
Hmm.
for a $3,000 night, we got 2 nights here. So um, that
Is that
is
in the
really
Shard?
it's not. No, it's a little bit like southwest of that, but close.
Got
You
it.
can kind of see it from that view.
Yeah.
Um, so here's the thing: these different hotel programs have really varying degrees of point value. Hyatt's are the most valuable, Hilton's are the least, and Marriott's kind of in the middle. But what you'll see is like a 5-star with Hyatt, for example, will typically range between 30,000 to 45 to 50,000 points per night. That's like the range of 5-star properties. Hilton, for example, the reason I don't really like them is their pricing is super inflated. It might be 100, like there's a property, the Waldorf in Cabo, San Lucas, really nice property that a lot of people like in Mexico. You could get that for 100,000 points per night with Hilton points, which isn't terrible. But I've seen that thing go up to 1 million points per night as well.
Wow.
So the variability is massive there. The loyalty program's not as good. They've got great properties. The Conrads, the Waldorf, especially the luxury side of their program is really nice,
I
but
have seen like
the
a
value's not there.
I have seen like a 2-to-1 conversion though on sometimes
Yeah.
when you move over to I think that's Hilton, right?
It is Hilton, yeah, but that the reason they do that is because the points are so low value that
Yeah.
even with
You need
that,
to.
it's still right. I mean, like the Waldorf and Cabo, let's just call it again. That property is probably like 250 to 300,000 on average per night. That's still 125,000. If you were going to convert Amex points into Hilton, that's still 125,000 Amex points per night, which
Hmm.
is over $1,000 per night that you're paying, and the room rate cash might be like $700. So it's
Wow.
like that doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
Hyatt's kind of the opposite. So here, the standard room at this property was about 800 pounds, so maybe like $1,100 per night. And for a standard room, you could get it for 30,000 points. Okay, so that's already really good. Now, because I have globalist status and there's some other strategies I can talk about that help you get the upgrades, that's how we got into a $3,000 per night suite for the stay. And this is something where you really need to kind of layer in points plus status, some of the sweet night certificates to maximize all of that. But
Hmm.
that's going to be the overview. So for me, I really like Hyatt as my preferred program, and then Marriott would be second. And the key is, can you get to the highest level of status and how easy is it? Because that is like the fast track to getting the most possible upgrades. If you're getting like gold status, which is really base level, from a card like the Amex Platinum or Business Platinum, they give you gold status complimentary, but like this is why a lot of people think that upgrades don't really work or that it's kind of a scam. Is they'll be like, I have gold status. They walk in, they get like a free water. Like I got the corner king room. I didn't get anything cool. That level of status, you're not getting anything. You have to get to the higher levels of status within the program to actually get the meaningful upgrades.
And how do you earn the higher level of status?
It works differently for each program. So again, Hilton, really easy. There's actually just one card. So if you don't spend a lot, travel a lot, and you just want status, this would be the move. Get the Hilton Aspire card. It gives you diamond status right away. The pro is very easy, no minimum spend, no minimum stays. The cons are that it's very easy, so a lot of people have it. So that means less available upgrades, but you still have top tier status, which means you do get some upgrades, free breakfast, free Wi-Fi, early check-in, late checkout, all those perks.
Mm.
Marriott, to get to the level we're going to get meaningful upgrades, you want to get to titanium, There's technically one level above that called ambassador, which is very hard for a lot of people because you have to stay over 100 nights per year and spend over $23,000 on actual stays at a Marriott property. So for a lot of people, that's a stretch. But titanium's 75 nights. And what you could do is you can combo stack a couple cards, which gets you to 40,000, or excuse me, to 40 nights. And so then you only actually have to stay 35 nights a year in a Marriott hotel. So if you're a business traveler and you stay at Marriott most of the time, you're probably gonna get that titanium status. And that will unlock a lot of the upgrade benefits there. And along the way to hitting those, you're going to unlock certain milestones where you get to have, they call it like a choice benefit award, where at like 50, you hit 50 qualifying nights, they're going to say, hey, do you want 5 sweet night certificates or this credit or this credit or this credit? I always take the sweet night certificates because those get the upgrades. And so that's going to be the play for Marriott. Now with Hyatt, you need to get to 60 qualifying nights. And the play there is basically a combination of spend on co-branded cards like Hyatt cards and stays. And you can get there relatively easily if you do that effectively. So that's kind of the high level overview. I mean, it's more than high level, but that's going to be the 3 major brands and yeah, you want to get to the top levels with each.
But it sounds like it's not just buying on somebody else's credit card and staying at a hotel and then saying, hey, here's my Bonvoy number at Marriott. And then they just, and like, you can't get status by just doing that unless you're staying there a lot. Like you need the credit card for that brand and to stay there a lot, right?
That's the fastest way. If you are really traveling a lot, like you're on the road, 75 nights a year, you could just do 75 organic nights on your own and you'd hit it for Marriott, for example. But like that's quite a bit of travel. And it just makes sense if you have the ability to get a credit card to just get a co-branded card because that's going to take a big chunk of those nights off. And what happens is when you have these co-branded cards and status, the point multipliers of how many points you earn for when you stay just goes dramatically through the roof, right? You have the right cards and status. You could be earning up to 23 points for every dollar you spend at a Marriott hotel. So it becomes, again, this flywheel. The more you stay, the higher your status gets. The more you spend, the more points you have. The more points you have, the more you can stay. So it's like, it kind of just becomes this machine as well.
So do you earn more status even though you're buying it with points?
Yeah. With hotels, if you're going through the hotel program, it will still count towards qualifying nights. Wow. Airlines are the opposite, right? So if you redeem with airline miles, it doesn't count. And then it flips. So like if you book a flight through Amex Travel, the airline will count that flight towards status because to the airline, it looks like a cash reservation, right? You redeem your points at Amex purchases the ticket. To American Airlines, it's like, cool, Tim Bratz just
But we don't want to do that anyways. Yeah.
You don't want to do that anyways, but that's how it works. In some cases, it can make some sense. And then on the hotel side, if you go through like Amex Travel, generally speaking, not always, but generally speaking, it's not going to count towards your status. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. So it's kind of nuanced. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So here's the thing that I think a lot of busy people with too much stuff going on already don't want more of. And that's like 1,000 different credit cards, right? If they're not playing this game on a full-time basis, and it's like, man, you know what I try to do? Like once a year, I just look at all my recurring spend. I'm like, I got to cut a bunch of this stuff out and I cancel as much as I can. And like, even if it's a, $200 a year or whatever credit card that I'd never use, I'm like, I don't use this thing. I'm not getting any benefit from it. I'm gonna just shut it down. Or, and obviously like other expenses and stuff too. And the stuff that's on, the apps on TV and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, I want less to manage. I want less to worry about. If you are, giving me advice or somebody who's in my position of like, hey, you just want maybe a couple business credit cards, a couple personal credit cards, what would you advise on like the most bang for your buck, even though I know I'm not getting the most points, but overall I'm gathering as many as I can. I feel like there's this point of diminishing returns of like too much headspace has to go towards it. If I go all in, and it's like, I want to kind of find that sweet spot of if I have 2 cards, 3 cards personally based on these handful of things that I spend money on, and then same on the business side, what would you kind of advise on?
You nailed it. Yeah. I mean, the 80-20 rule is like, this is an area where it really applies. So there's 2 things I'll share. Actually, there's 3. Number 1 is 80-20, keep it simple. Number 2 is the more that you can have a system around this, the better. And number 3 is to like outsource, delegate, create leverage to have some of the heavy lifting done by someone else. So even for me, I'm a points geek on this. I've been doing this as a passion for over 10 years. I've been doing it in the business for 5. I've saved millions of dollars on travel over the last several years. And one of the biggest leverage points I made was when I got my assistant trained up on the fundamentals of booking, transferring points, managing airline credits. Because now 90% of the time that I would spend doing any of this, she knows how to do it for me. When I book a flight domestically, she knows, okay, we want to do first class on flights over this length, and he wants to be on an aisle seat. So I'll just be like, hey, I need a flight this date. She knows how to research it, find it, book it, and just sends me the confirmation. Day of, she's logging in, getting my boarding pass. I don't do any of that stuff. It's really nice. So that's going to be one piece of it. But on the card side,
find the who to do the how, right? And so that could be
exactly
by training somebody on your team, or it could be by hiring a consultant, right? Like I hired you guys in order to help me out with booking this trip.
Yeah, or a combo. We have a lot of people that like, they're like, hey, I'm going to hire you guys, and you're in. Do you know Craig Ballantyne? By chance? Yeah. So Craig's worked with us, and he was like, I'm going to hire you, but my wife's going to do it all. I was like, cool, man, let's do it. So she came in and did all this stuff because she finds the game fun. So that's important because you're right. The last thing we need is more open loops, and as we've heard, this can open a lot of loops. So that's going to be one. On the card side, though, I always recommend 2 to 3 personal cards and 2 to 3 business cards as a core setup. What this does is it gives you enough meat on the bone where you're going to make a meaningful difference, but not so much complexity where it feels overwhelming, right? If you have 4 to 6 total cards, that's pretty good. And what you want to look at is you generally want to have 2 cards that are going to maximize bonus categories and 1 card that's going to be like everything else card. Okay. So if you spend a lot on materials and travel for business, like those would be categories you want to maximize for. And then you have a lot of other general expenses. You'd have one other kind of catch-all card. In the household, you spend a lot on groceries and dining. Cool. The Amex Gold earns 4 points per dollar on both of those categories. That's going to knock that out. You have a lot of stuff you're ordering on Amazon for the kids. That's like a catch-all card. And maybe you throw one more in.
That's like a 5% one, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good card for that. Yeah.
That's one we have for that.
Yeah, and that's a good return on spend. If you want like another card, the Capital one, Venture X would be a good one, 2 points per dollar. If you're using the points well, you can get up to 8 to 10% back. So that's the other option. But then you may have one, third card if you have a lot of other spend in the household, or that might be a time to throw in like one of the co-branded cards with like Hyatt or Marriott that earns some qualifying nights and helps make it easier to fast track your way to status. So that simple kind of combo is really the majority of what you need. Now, applying for cards, making sure your credit's good. If you're a real estate investor, obviously credit is like essential. So being conscientious of that, like when we do card plans, like we're always keeping that stuff in mind. But if someone's applying on their own, like just be mindful of how that works. But there are ways to get multiple cards with one inquiry or oftentimes no inquiries. Business cards don't show up on your personal credit report. So there's a lot more people can do than they realize that is simple and isn't going to impact their credit. That gets them in the door to really make a significant difference in terms of their travel quality and savings. So I always recommend looking at that first and starting there.
Dude, I love it. And you mentioned a word at the beginning that this can become addictive, and it absolutely is. Like I sit there, my kids are going to bed and they ask me hey, Dad, will you just sit outside my door for a little bit? And I'm like, and all of a sudden it's an hour and a half later, man. And I'm still clicking through and doing the searches and playing with points and just, even though I'm not like booking anything actively right now, I goof around with it in order to just kind of like learn it. And I love it, man. It's so interesting to me. Of kind of gamifying it. It takes the world of personal finance, which I've dedicated my life to learning about, with, all the excitement of travel and seeing amazing places and experiencing amazing things, and all the culture and everything that comes with it, and just puts them all together. And it's such a fun thing at least for me. And I know a lot of other people who just love it. So it definitely has become addictive.
Yeah. Be careful with that, because you're going to end up like, I don't know if you've met Tommy. He's my business partner in this. And there'll be times I'm like, Tommy, what are you doing? He's like, I don't know, man. I just saw Chicago to Tokyo. ANA first class just opened. It's for next June. I just booked it. I'm like, why did you do? He's like, I don't know, man. The deal was so good. He's like, I'll always go to Tokyo. So obviously he's got an insane flexibility because he's like, solo, no partner, no kids or anything like that. But that does actually touch on one of the things if you do find these spontaneous deals, which is flexibility. And one of the things I'll hit on is the benefit of using points and having flexibility is so much more than cash. So let's say you were looking for a trip for next summer, right? It's August right now at the time of recording. You said you want to go away every July. Actually starting to search for next year's trip in the next month or two is going to be a really good time, because the best times to get deals are early on and actually later in the game. The middle window, you can still get them. There's just less of them and they're still there. But like those first 2 windows are where you're going to find the most of the best deals, the highest percentage. And so what you could do is you could say, hey, we're not exactly sure if this is the perfect flight for us, but we found such a good deal. We're going to book it. And then if we don't want to take it, guess what? You just cancel, you get your points back. Some airlines charge like a $50 fee or a minimal fee. A lot of them don't charge any fees, and you just get your points back. You can't
Without
convert
having to
them.
pay for insurance?
Correct. Correct.
Wow.
So this is the difference because, like, let's say you were gonna do that with a family of five, right? With a cash bear, you would never speculatively just be like, "Oh, we're gonna spend forty-five
Right.
thousand dollars and now have a $45,000 credit with Lufthansa." You wouldn't do that. But if
Mhm.
it's like, okay, I know that these Air France flying Blue Miles will get used for sure at some point. I'm gonna just cancel it and get the points back. It's a really good plan B that allows you to lock in your optimal options and then have flexibility later. So for me, I do this all the time. When we flew here, I actually booked a flight from on Air Canada or on Lufthansa from Washington D.C. into Munich because I knew we were going to Germany. And then what I did is I monitored some other deals. I saw this option from JFK to Frankfurt pop up, which was better dates, better fit, better experience. I canceled the original one, got it back, and then we just flew out of New York instead of DC. And
Mm.
so that's how you can really win even at a deeper level of this game. But again, you have to decide like that's a great example of delegate that because you probably don't want to be sitting there checking deals every day on your own.
And so the flexibility, it comes, from my conversations with you guys and what I've seen is it
Yeah.
comes in two parts. One is your travel dates. And then the other one is where you're going, right? Like maybe,
Yeah.
hey, I want to take a vacation over spring break, but the kids only have this week off for spring break. So I'm committed on the time frame, but I don't really care where we go. And so you can do a search and look for, maybe you go to the Central America, maybe you go to the Caribbean, maybe you go to, the West Coast, or maybe take a quick jump over the pond into Europe
Yep.
for a week. And there's some flexibility there, right? The
Yep.
opposite side of the coin is, hey, I want to go to London or I want to go to Greece, but I'm flexible on timing. So I can go anytime in June, July, or early August when the kids are out of school and next summer, and you can start searching for that. And if you have both flexibility, that's when you can really get some deals, right?
Nailed it. Absolutely. Yeah. So like when I do speaking to mastermind groups or live events and stuff, I show this chart, but it's basically on the top axis, you have flexibility of like routing, and then you have flexibility of timing. If you have flexible routing and timing, you are going to score deals vast majority of the time. Like, and by timing, I don't mean it has to be like a whole month. It could be just a few days or a week or so. If you have flexibility on one of those, like you're okay with a flexible route, but not flexible in time, or you're okay with flexible time, but not a flexible route, then the odds are decent. You're still gonna score most of the time. But if you're like tight on both of those and you're in that bottom quadrant where it's like, I'm not flexible on the date and I'm not flexible on the route, then it's just like good luck. It's like it's a prayer to the travel gods,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like we've had some people, we always just make sure before, for us when we're helping someone, we're like, you just have to have that. Because if you tell me, hey, I want to go, Charleston to London, right? Nonstop, five people on June 9th, and I want the evening flight and find me a deal. It's like, I'm not going to tell you that's going to happen. But if you say,
Yeah.
okay, we're okay flying out of Atlanta, New York, DC, Miami, Charlotte, and we could go the first week and we're okay going, first week of June, we want to go to London. Cool, no problem. That can definitely happen. So that flexibility will open up. Just think about it logically, right? How many flights are operating between, let's just say Miami to London on a given day? Maybe five or six. How many business class seats are on each? Maybe, 20. So you have like 100 total seats to pick from. But if you open up a couple different airports and you open up a couple different dates, your 100 seats of inventory goes to thousands of seats. So the
Mm-hmm.
odds of you finding something just went up a lot.
Makes a lot of sense, man. And then there's other hacks like on the hotel side. One of the things that I wish I would have done, but I didn't do for this trip was, I think if you stay like 4 nights, you get a fifth night free for some hotels. And like, there's
Yep.
little things that you can do in order to then, I mean, that gets you also an automatic, 20% reduction in what your cost would be for dollars or points on stuff like that. Right.
Yeah, tons. There's the hotel gamification like that. So we've covered the kind of the core, just to zoom back out to the three buckets. So maximize your points earnings by getting the right cards and the right expenses. That's step one. Turn
Mm-hmm.
your points into your dream trips. This is by converting points from the banks into the airlines, and you maximize the value out of the points. And then the third perk or the third step is going to be to maximize your perks and upgrades. So this is your suite upgrade to hotels. This is using the fifth night free benefit. This is
Mm.
getting the best lounges when you're traveling, making sure you have TSA PreCheck and clear, global entry. These are the things that just make your travel more seamless. The Uber credits, the things like free bags when you fly. These are basically all things that just they take away the small annoyances, headaches, the small hidden costs and discomforts, and they make it more easeful, more comfortable, more luxurious, just a better pace, more quiet, more space, and it just makes your travel feel way more chill and enjoyable. And so
Hmm.
those are like there's like dozens of these little kind of things that you're talking about right there that fall into that bucket, and they can be game changers. I mean, they're small, but like the number of times I've flown back in the country and had global entry, and I get to the customs line and I look at it and I'm like, oh my God, that line is 400 people. My line is 3 people. I
Hmm.
would have missed my flight if I was in that line. Thank God I have this. That kind of thing. It's a small perk, but it's a game changer. And there's dozens of those.
We did that on the way back, man. And it was like, I mean, we had a couple of things. We had kids. We had, my wife had a broken foot, and we had first
Oh,
class though. So it was like, yeah, hey, just go straight to the front of the line. So,
yeah, yeah,
hey,
totally, totally.
I'll tell you what, a hack, and it's mayhem traveling with kids. And so I think, to your point, definitely start earlier when you have a big group that you're traveling with. There's a lot more flexibility if it's just you and your
Yeah,
spouse, or you solo, or
sure.
you and a buddy. But when you have 4, 5, 6 people that you're traveling with, or you're bringing the grandparents to watch the kids, or bringing the nanny to watch the kids, it's like it turns into a lot more moving parts and a lot more difficult to make this happen. So yeah, I love what you said about making sure that you're looking at it earlier, check it every once in a while, see if there's something better that pops up, but at least it's locked in at a great deal, and you're going on the trip.
Yep.
Um, uh, but I think another hack, dude, is like just bringing a little boot, like a little broken foot boot, and just putting it on as you're going through security or getting into the
That's
line
funny.
for the Eiffel Tower or Big Ben or whatever. And
Right.
dude, they let you go straight to the front. It was awesome.
That's funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of similar to one that I leverage quite a bit, which is if you're staying in a hotel, always have something you're celebrating. Like, why not, right?
Yes.
Before you check in, this is one of the small things that stacks in terms of getting the upgrades. It's not just the sweet night certificates. It's are you contacting a human at the hotel using the art of the schmooze is what I call it, right? And just having a little bit of human connection. Again, your assistant could do this, and telling them, hey, I'm taking my fiance to this hotel. She loves London. She's been dreaming about this day. We just celebrated this big milestone or whatever it is. There's probably no way you could help us with this upgrade, right? And a lot of times they're going to be like, you know what? Let me take a look at for you and let me see what I can do. And they're going to try and do their best. They can't always do it, but that just gives you a little bit of a slight edge over,
Mm.
now actually these room allocation systems are oftentimes done by AI. So that's a whole other thing.
So in doing that, one, how do you find that person?
I mean, it's usually going to be someone at the front desk, but sometimes it's a marketing manager or something like that.
So
Depending,
you're just
you have
picking
a
up the phone
brand,
and calling, or are you emailing?
a little bit of both, a little bit of
Okay.
both. So oftentimes, it'll be a call followed up by an email, and then maybe one more quick call. So, like for a hotel, for example, I'll check what rooms are available before the stay. I'll look and I'll be like, okay, this premium room is available. I know that. I tell them exactly the one that I want because what I want to do is make it. Think about the person at the front desk. They don't know you from any Joe Schmo. They're
Yep.
probably just in the day-to-day routine. So I want to make it really easy for them to make them know that they're doing a great job of making me happy, which is part of their role. So
Yep.
be like, hey, it would make my stay amazing if there was any possibility of getting into this specific room. I saw it's available. We're celebrating this thing. What was your name, by the way? Oh, Stephanie. Cool. Where are you from? Oh, you said okay. Oh, I've been to Italy. It's really cool. Build a little bit of rapport. And then sometimes when you come to check in, they're like, oh, Eli, we talked on the phone. And you have this
Yeah.
warm welcome. You get the fruit in the room. Like that. These are small things, but they
Yeah.
do enhance the experience.
No, for sure. And especially when like you're traveling with somebody else, right? When the kids don't know to expect that, or they didn't know that you made that
Yeah.
phone call, and all of a sudden there's like a little something extra, or your wife gets really surprised, or your spouse gets really
Yeah.
surprised. Um, it definitely adds to the experience. And yeah, man, it's how often would you say you get that? If you make 10 calls, one out of 10 times, 2 out of 10 times?
Higher, honestly.
Really?
If you're combining that with status as well, and you're doing that, I'd say it's like 6 or 7 out of 10.
Wow.
Something's meaningful will happen. By not meaningful, getting like fruit in the room is like I would say like a not like that a crazy of a thing. It's nice, but it's
Yeah.
not like that crazy
Yeah.
thing. But
Yeah.
getting like an actual upgrade is probably like 6 out of 10. You could
Wow.
say. Just depends on the level of upgrades. There's been times where we've gotten upgraded to the presidential suite, which was in New York City. That was a $30,000 per night suite we got upgraded to, which I paid 40,000 points for. That I do not want to say is standard, so don't set that expectation. But what we have here A
That's
$3,000 night
awesome.
per night suite is like more within range.
I love it, man. Well, let's wind down. I mean, we could keep on talking forever, but and
Sure.
I'm gonna have you back either on this podcast or on at one of my events. I'd love for you to come and talk because lifestyle design is everything that what we live by, and
Right.
the reason that we do what we do is so that way we can go and have these experiences and do it with the ones that we love.
Totally.
Where do you see this points game going? Where do you see the travel stuff happen? Like, do you think it's going to get harder? Do you think it's going to get easier? Do you think there's AI tools out there that are going to make it easier, but also lose some of the
Yeah.
human component in what you're talking
Hmm.
about? What do you see over the next 3 years?
Yeah. I mean, I think like any industry, it's one that is going to be disrupted a lot, I imagine, over the next few years. As things get easier, it just means more people know different strategies and that like you're competing with more people. If you talk to like the OG travel hackers, right? People that are like on deep Reddit forums or this forums like Flyer Talk and stuff, they're gonna be like, man, you missed the golden era, you missed the golden
Yeah,
age.
yeah,
But I used to have 47 American cards. I had 6 million points from just hitting sign up bonuses, and I could do all this stuff. Like I traveled for 3 years nonstop off of like 100,000 points. You're like, what? so, so it's gonna get harder, But I think, like we talked about, I think that the banks and the airlines are so dependent on this existing for
hmm
their existence that there will always be some way that they're using gamification and loyalty to incentivize customer behavior and to win over customers, that there will always be an opportunity. They have to keep dangling something out in front of you enough to keep people engaged. I mean, I'm probably part of their
agreed.
marketing strategy, right? They like want people like me gamifying it and figuring it out and knowing that
hmm
I'm going to crack the code and that most people are
And
never
then,
going to get it. And
dude,
so,
and talk,
yeah,
yeah, and talking
and talking
about
about
it
it.
and getting everybody excited about it, and then
Right.
99% of people never end up doing it, right? And so they're racking
Yeah,
up all these points. It's like buying gift cards. You go and buy a gift card. It's like 40% of gift cards ever get used. So it's free revenue without ever having to fully fulfill on that purchase. And it's like they're
exactly.
doing the exact same thing here. That now they don't have to give 2% away across billions of dollars of purchases. That's a lot of friggin' money and all their
Right.
profit at the end of the year. So
Right. Right.
no, I mean, it makes
Yeah.
sense that it would stick around, and just like gift cards aren't going away, the points game isn't going away, and
Yeah.
that's awesome. So,
Yeah.
well, Eli, how can people connect with you? Where's the best place to follow you and reach out to you guys in case they want to work with you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so Eli Travel Guy is my Instagram. That's the best place. I post a lot of behind the scenes of how I'm doing stuff, just showcasing travel, teaching things like that, educating, having a lot of fun. I like to keep the fun, the
You
brand
do,
fun and
yeah,
and
you do a
and
good job on that.
engaging. Yeah, yeah. It's it's just. I think if you love what you do and you love how you do it too, it just makes it just very sustainable long term. So that's the best place. But the other option, if you want to get more access to some of the additional free trainings, we have the CEO Points playbook I put together. This normally goes for $150, but it's gonna be free for anyone coming from the podcast. We'll put a link down below so listeners can come. If you have any questions and you want to talk to our team about our services and how that works, you'll get the access to go down below and check that stuff out as well, and get some bonuses as well from coming from your community. But at a bare minimum, I'd say social media for me, and definitely follow some of the other accounts out there. There's some really good other points educators. Max Miles Points is another one if you want to learn more on your own. He's really good. And Travel Like Tommy would be my business partner, who's also doing the stuff at a very high level. So we'll definitely follow those guys too.
Awesome, man. Well, we'll link everybody in the show notes and along with those other links. And man, I appreciate you being here. Great to connect. And dude, enjoy your time in London. You're having a blast.
Thanks. Thank you, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. And I just want to say I really love the way you're living your life and the message you're sharing with people about creating these experiences. I think it's the juice of life and the stuff that at the end of the game we look back on and be like, man, thank God I took advantage of that stuff. And I think that
Mhm.
what we talked about today can be one of the ways that can give people, like even folks that have a lot of money, it can give you the permission slip to do the things that you already want to do and not feel any sort of guilt or regret about it. So I hope this inspires people to go travel and create those memories.
For sure, man. Well, thank you again for being here. Appreciate everything. And guys, if you guys got some good value out of this, please like this episode and give me your biggest takeaways and any questions you have, because I'm going to have Eli back on here at some point in the near future. And any questions you might have for him, put them in the show notes or put them in the comment section, and we will make sure we get those addressed. So thank you guys for being here. We'll see you next week on the Legacy Podcast.
Hey, well, thank you for being here. Hopefully you got a ton of great value out of this episode. We try to give as much free value as possible across all of our social media platforms. So please make sure that you're connected with us. We are at Legacy Wealth on YouTube. We are at at Tim Bratz on all other social media platforms, and we're available anywhere that you listen to podcasts. The best way that you can support this podcast is by just subscribing to our YouTube channel, by liking the video, by commenting on it, and by sharing it with anyone else who might get some great value out of it. So thank you again for being here. We'll see you next Sunday on the Legacy Podcast.